they met their husbands in the Radford area, or were they elsewhere?
Well, yeah, Sarah met her husband in the Radford area, and Agnes met her husband there. But Beulah met her husband through Christine's husband, Ray. They lived together in Maine, or was close friends there, and they were in service together. And that's where that they introduced her to Beulah.
Hmm.
At that time, she was living in North Carolina and was managing a Rosa store there.
Now, how would Christine have met Ray?
She was in Norfolk at a Christian school down there, and he evidently must have come to a meeting or something that they was having in that area there, and they met there.
Was she teaching? Was Christine a teacher? Or?
No, she was just going to school. She didn't do any of that type work until they felt called to Africa after before they were married. They went to the Philadelphia School of the Bible together, and then they felt called into the ministry in Africa, and they stayed there for a number of years.
Well, let's see now. The Christian, yeah, I wanted to go back to Granddaddy and Grandmother Reed about. It is really important to me, and I think to all of us, that we have had a Christian heritage in our family for a long, long time. And would you, your mother, you said, was not a Christian when she met your dad the first time. But how about her family? Would you say they were Christians?
I don't know, Tim. I've wondered about that. They never said much about it. You know, it was never mentioned. Now, mother would try to witness to it, but they were brought up in a Methodist background, and it was a big setup with them. I just often wonder from the entire setup among them whether they were saved or not. Even Uncle Albert and Aunt Maud, they went to a Presbyterian church down there, but they didn't show any real evidence of being born again. In fact, I have my doubts about Uncle Albert's kids since they got away from there. Of course, you know, Pauline got tangled up with that Jehovah's Witness stuff. So you know pretty well what that is. You have your doubts about her salvation. They never did mention it. In fact, the entire family showed very little evidence of being saved. They just never was taught really the plan of salvation of that. Of course, back in the time when they grew up, they just had kind of a circuit rider preaching set up. Someone would come in maybe once or twice a year to hold services in their churches. And it was just a situation where I don't think they ever really knew what it was.
Just an aside, you've seen the TV show Christy. Would conditions around Damascus have been a little bit like what they show on there with the poor kids and one-room school and like that? Did you ever see anything like that? You were in that area?
Well, yeah, especially not so much around the Damascus area, because they had a school at Damascus. They built a beautiful rock school while we were there, and Dad worked on that. In fact, he was kind of a foreman on that to see that it was done right. And but now in the area that Mother was raised, there, it was identical in a lot of ways to the very situation there. I can remember when I was a kid, we'd go up to Tonsula's to visit. We'd go visit people, and they still lived in log cabins, some 2 rooms. There'd be families, maybe 8 kids in them, raised in a 2-room cabin with a loft in the top.
Mm.
And they would do all their cooking and stuff in there. I don't know how they ever made it, but they did. But I remember going in those things and the ceiling would be smoke black. The fireplace, that's on the heat they had and the thing. Did all their cooking on that. But the family seemed to be happy. They didn't have much of the world goods, but they had a lot of contentment.
Mm.
And Mother went to a one-room school. And they couldn't have many kids because it wasn't much bigger than a garage. It was made out of natural rock. It was a beautiful thing, but it was small. But in the summertime, they had what they call singing teachers come in. And that was something that really attracted people of the area that loved singing, because he would teach them to sing by note, shape note, what they call shape note music. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Mm-hmm.
But each note meant a certain note in, each form that was on the thing meant a certain note in the scale. And they learned those scales first, and then it was learned to sing from the book by what they'd learned on the scales. Some of the people could really sing good. It's surprising that women a lot of times could sing bass better than some of the men.
One other question I wanted to ask you. I think you said to me, I don't know if you did on the last interview, but you said to me that you believe that your grandmother Agnes Henry or Hendry, whichever way that's really spelled, and we're trying to figure that out, was the one that led your grandfather to the Lord. Is that your understanding, or did I just think that in my head?
No, yes, that's right. I don't know where she really did, but she insisted that he be saved before that they were married. He was pretty rough. Of course, he was a commercial fisherman, and in those days, most all the fishermen drank. And they wouldn't fool with it much when they was out on the waters, but when they'd come in, they usually celebrated if they made a good catch by drinking. And he came to one of the meetings and brought a jug with them, and they drank what was in the thing, and they were sitting in the back end of the meeting and blowing those things. You've seen people do that. And so they asked him to leave, and somehow or other, he took a liking to her, and she remembered what went on, and she just told him, she said, I have nothing to do with you until you become a Christian. And not long after that, he was saved.